Greetings everybody, it's me Night again. Hope everybody's having a great day today, or no matter where you're watching this. Before I get into this video, while I still remember, I want to give a shout out to one of my followers from Scotland. If I'm not mistaken, I believe you stated a long time ago you're from Scotland. You sent me a song. I think you told me you were riding in your car and a song came on. You thought about me. Now that song, it definitely resonated with me. It kind of like shows an aspect of my soul, so I'm just grateful. So I'm just sending you a big shout out, follower. I would say your name, but out of respect, I don't know if you want that, but I'm just gonna say I'll give you a shout out, and you know who you are because you're the only one who's done this. So if you catch this video, this is you. And also giving a shout out to other than Scotland, to United Kingdom, because I'm noticing I'm getting certain followers from United Kingdom and Australia, even though I stay in America. So again, shout out to all my followers, but I definitely had to give a shout out to them out there, because I'm noticing that my video, of course, on YouTube are going to a lot of people, and it kind of a little shocked me a little bit. I can't lie, because my following is not that big, but to see people from so far away places, it's real soul touching. So I just wanted to give a shout out. And I also, because y'all don't know, I have friends from those areas as well on my personal account, like on my Facebook and stuff. So it's just shocking to see something I like to do, like tarot, to be drawing people in from those countries specifically. Of course, I have a lot of other people from other places like India and things like that. I'll give you guys a shout out as well, but I just noticing this. But definitely my main thing was to give a shout out to the follower from Scotland who sent me that video. That was really kind of you. So the young lady that did that, thank you. So now that I said that, if y'all stayed in the video this long, this video is going to be about noticing karmic cycles, all right, before they happen or before they get too bad. Whether it be things that you can't stop doing, whether it be certain addictions or certain people around you, whether it be from family or friends, right? And I know you guys heard these things before, but I'm just going to say things in a little different way, right? So I give you an example, right? Say if you notice that you're making decent money, and you notice that you spend money really quick. So of course you might like buying certain items, but you spend things real quick. Like, instead of you just looking at yourself and maybe past lives or just you, just trying to break this trait, look at your family. You might have had a family member, whether mom or father, maybe even an uncle or grandfather that has this habit, and maybe that was passed on to you. Just like genetics and how you physically look, you can get negative traits just like that. You can get traits like being shy, right? I'll give you an example, right? My mother was, she was a very shy person, very timid, very beautiful one, but very shy, very timid. My dad, he would stay to himself. He definitely wasn't shy, but he was to himself. Well, guess what? That got passed on to me and my sister. They never taught us to be like quiet, reserved, right? It just was naturally brought to us. It makes sense. But the only thing is, though, I was extra shy. For me, like, even as a man, like, I was, not only was I afraid to talk to women, I was just afraid to even raise my hand in the classroom. I might know the answers, but I'm afraid. And I know most children are like that, but this lasted all the way until I was like almost in my 20s, like 26, 28. Right? I'm talking about like I was just like quiet where I didn't want to do nothing. And I had to learn to come out of that, right? And it definitely affected me from getting in relationships younger, at a young age, because I was timid. So people look at me face value. They might be like, oh, I think he probably has like a lot of women or certain this and that. But no, I didn't. It's because I was shy, right? And it took a lot, because like, even though I had a father figure, like you can't really train a person to change that quickly. Like, you can give them all the advice on how to talk to women or how to be more confident in the classroom, but that person's gonna still have to make the attempt. And so I'm not saying it's bad to be shy, but I was like overly shy. Just like me speaking on this camera, I didn't have the confidence to do this, right? It took me a long time. And then when I joined the military, I had to build more confidence, because I had to learn to talk around people who, I can't lie, were good people, but also kind of crazy. Like, some people are really gun-ho. They want to like, they just ready to go to war. And I had to really conform, getting with this and change a little bit. More stern. So, but I'm just bringing my story up because this is how patterns I started noticing, right? And I'm not going to say those are really karmic, but they were definitely generational, passed on. Now, in a way, I look at it kind of like karmic, because like, if I'm shy, right, that stems from me not wanting to express myself or being afraid of how people are going to view me. This makes sense? And I still find it to this day. Sometimes I might want to put out something, whether on this video or even in my job. I'm afraid to say certain things at times. Not because I'm really caring about what people say. I don't want to trigger people. But I'm realizing I shouldn't care. So I had to learn how to get out of that, right? Especially as a man, where most people perceive a man as supposed to be strong, providing, confident, and all that. And it's not that I'm not confident. It's more about I'm so empathetic to people and other people's needs. I'll put them first instead of just voicing my opinion, right, in a respectful way, right? And you might be the similar same way, where you might be a person who's afraid to do things, right? You might be confident that you're a creative person. You might be able to draw, sing, and all that, but you might not want to put it out because you just, you might be afraid of what people want to say, or you might be afraid that people's going to take it. You might have trust issues. Those issues don't just come from like your thought process that you are afraid to do these things. It could be possibly passed on. So I'm telling you guys, notice the signs with your parents, your grandmother, because even if your parents are confident, a gene could have skipped from the grandmother and your parents didn't get it, but it went to you, right? Like, really look at it that. So just like how I made the video about past life, you can get things generationally passed on, just like how you look, right? You can get things passed on to you, whether they're good traits or negative traits, right? You need to understand this. Like, you might notice that certain women in your family are always getting a divorce, and then you told yourself that you're not going to get a divorce, but then you was in a marriage for 14 years and then you got a divorce. It makes sense. So it doesn't mean that the person, if they cheated on you or did something wrong to you, is right for leaving you in this negative situation and leaving you where you have to break up, right? But it's also the fact that other than that person making a negative act, we're not making excuses for people's negativity, but a lot of times we indirectly draw people to us, right? And we already see the signs that they're negative, but we are so afraid to let them go because maybe we don't want to be alone. We're trying to follow our religion where we feel like we can't get a divorce. We do all these things, right? But we're suffering inside, making these sacrifices. So notice the patterns. Maybe your family's so religious that they stayed in negative relationships, and you're trying not to be like you telling yourself, I need to, like, I want better, but you end up staying in a relationship just like they did. You don't get to notice the signs. It's not always your fault. And yes, again, it doesn't excuse people for doing you wrong, but really notice the patterns. Even at your work, you might notice that, like, people are gossiping and things like that, but you might notice this trend happen in high school. Like, really notice the trends. And a lot of these energies not your fault, but you might notice that you draw people that gossip around you. Like, really, so if you're seeing this, like, what's in you? So it's not that you're a gossiper, really look at yourself. Why am I drawing these kind of people? Does this make sense? Or you might be a person, you go to a job because they make, like, it's the most money you can make in life, but the environment's not peaceful. So, but you don't want to make a pay cut, but you can go to another job that might be like $100 less or $50 less. It depends on how much you're making, but it's more peaceful. You have your sanity, you have your health. Like, look at that. Now, are you in that job not only because you want to make money? Does your family have a tendency to want to always make money and be something of value? Which is nothing wrong with that, but they're sacrificing their mental health by working around the wrong people just to have money. This makes sense. So look at their faces then later on in life when they're 60 and 65 and they're having heart problems because they have all that stress, right? Because a lot of times when the body is used to working all the time, when you actually leave a job, a lot of people, they pass on because they're so used to being busy, they don't know what it's like to be at peace. I noticed a lot of times when I was in the military, a lot of guys will get out, just like how I retired, and they don't know how to handle coming back, and they get stressed and PTSD, and also, again, they're so used to working, they don't know how to sit still. Does this make sense? And so they don't know how to deal with society because society is not structured as it should be, right? And because, especially in the military, we come from most military branches, well, at least where I'm at, when I was in my service, because I was in the Navy, but I was also attached to the Marine units. I retired out. We're very structured, very organized for the most part. So when you come in the civilian world and you try to work a civilian job, they're not structured. The supervisors are not organized. People don't show up on time. You have to overwork, and if you're a go-getter, they don't understand why you're such much in your energy as far as like getting things done, right? They never were built that structure. Someone's like having a dad or a mom trying to teach you morals and teach you how to be a good person, right? How it is in the military, it's like they're not our parents, but they kind of put certain values in you. Like, they don't force you, but you kind of adapt, and then you kind of leave with that. So I'm going to tell you again, like, and because of that, it made me be more aware, because I noticed when I was in the military, they told us to be aware of our surroundings. And I'm telling you guys this too. You might need to be paying attention to your surroundings where, like, all right, I noticed that when I say these things trigger people. It doesn't mean you shouldn't say these things, but it could be something within them. Now, also, again, sometimes we associate ourselves with people who seem nice, but they might have negative traits. So you might have a friend, right, they're really nice, good heart, they might be God-fearing and all that. But you notice that they have a tendency that they might drink wine or drink too much, and then they start gossiping. Or even if they don't drink, they might just be a gossiper. They gossip about how guys treat them bad or how women treat them bad, but you're allowing them to be around your energy. So what you don't know is, right, when you allow people like that in your energy too long, consistently, especially if they're always gossiping and complaining, it actually affects your vibration, your aura. right? So then the same people that they're complaining about, even though you never complain, you might draw a man or a woman that's negative like them, whether they be gossiping, or you might draw a situation like them. So if you have a friend that's always getting cheated on, but you've never been cheated on, right? You might all of a sudden your life might shift, right? Where you might get somebody who cheats on you, do something negative. It's like you're surrounding yourself with people. It's like guilty by association. So whoever you surround yourself, you kind of pick up their traits. So like, again, you might not act like them, right? But you understand their aura, it affects you. Also, people have spiritual attachments. A lot of people who gossip and do certain things, they have spiritual attachments. When I mean spiritual attachments, please don't think like demons necessarily. It's also like negative spirits that like to have that drama in their life. There's people that have passed on that miss the drama, that miss the energy of being a human. So they follow people around. These people do not know that. And also it can be family. It can be family, ancestors, also putting that into that person. You can't see it. And so you feel it, right? You don't understand why I feel this energy. It's the weight of your friend, possibly a coworker, even a family member. So notice the karmic signs, because the earlier you notice them, it makes your life a little smoother. It doesn't mean you're gonna like be able to like dodge all negativity in the world. It's not gonna mean that if you go to the store that somebody won't like say something mean to you, but it's less likely to happen when you notice the signs, because then you can change your thought process as far as like, all right, I'm gonna hang with them only so much. I'm gonna put distance with them so much, or I'm not gonna hang with them at all. Or even yourself, like you might notice that you're a hard worker, right? And you make a lot of money, but you spend it as quick as you get it. Like that was something I had a problem with, where I'll make a lot of money. I wasn't rich, but I make a lot of money. As soon as I get it, I spend something because I get anxious. Like I might see a car, see some clothes, like, oh, I gotta get that. Because I feel like if I don't get it, it's not gonna be another one left, right? And I got that from my mother, because my mother, she would get money, right? And she was a dental hygienist, and she would get money she'll spend on us, but she overbuy for us because she's over sheltering, almost over motherly. If that's even a word. She'll overdo things, right? Things like that. And so I had to notice that. And then I noticed also she drew a man, which is my real father, my dad. He wasn't as quick with the money to spend on clothes, but he had an addiction to cars. Like he loved fixing cars, and he would buy old cars and new cars, and he'll build them. But just that little $1,000 or $5,000, you're wasting money that could go in the house, and then he would get in debt. You understand what I'm saying? So even though he had all that money, and so then it put the family in debt, right? Well, we still live in a good area. It's just like a good neighborhood. It's just you had debt, and so then me and my sister, we would spend money, and luckily we didn't get as debt like they had, but it's the principle was passed on, guys. They didn't teach us this. So when I noticed the signs, instead of just blaming myself, oh, I spend money, and I'm not blaming them either, it was still genetically passed on. So again, notice the signs. When you got things like that that's been passed on, it's hard to break it. It's like hard to break it. I know people like to talk about generational curses, and they just keep talking about like your love life going wrong, or toxic family members, as far as like how they speak to you or how they treat you, or if they don't act like they love you. But you also have generational curses as far as like income, people like a poverty mindset, or some people who just want to live above their means all the time, and then you wonder why you're being seen by other people as high and mighty or arrogant. You're getting stuff passed on from your family, other than your zodiac sign that you might be having in your chart, that also is being projected out to people. If you're Aries or whatever your zodiac sign is being projected, you have energy that was passed on from your family, and also your past lives. You might have had a past life where you always liked nice things, which is nothing wrong, but you might have been a person who was overly extravagant. You went beyond your means. Does this make sense? And then now you carried in this life, right? You might have kids that are rebellious right now. You don't understand, or maybe you don't remember. There might have been times where you're rebellious, and even if you're not rebellious, you might have siblings that were rebellious, or your parents might have been rebellious, but they don't tell you. Your parents might not tell you every story how they were as a child, and you wonder why your child is rebellious. It's not really that you're a bad mother or a bad father. That could have got passed on to them. You understand? And your lesson is to try to figure out how to get through this, right? Does this make sense? In the best way you can. Right? If you have somebody listen to you and they're not speaking to you, it's not necessarily your fault, right? They could be taking energy from the father or the mother. So say if the father has spoke on you in a negative way, depending on that child's mindset, and it doesn't mean that necessarily doesn't love you. It might be picking up on the energy of the father, and it's kind of acting like the father. Same thing with the mother. You might have a child that's gravitating to the mother, and because that child has always heard the mother talking down on the father, that child is naturally now going to have a natural instinct to not like the father. That's why you have to be careful what you say. So then later on in life, right, even if that kid respected you as a 16-year-old, 20-year-old, as they got older and they mature and they're in their 25 years old and their 40s and 38s and 35s, whatever, they might now have a stubborn mindset to not want to change, to come back to you, which is sad, right? And that's because of the energy it felt growing up. So even if it was kind of kind growing up, it starts having these shifts because we all evolve during certain times in our life, right? I notice in life, every 7 years we go through some type of change, right? And I'll make a video about that another time. But nonetheless, just notice the signs. I'm gonna make this video too long, guys. Just notice the signs that, all right, yeah, there's karma, possibly from past life. Yeah, there's karma that stems from trauma from childhood, from parents, trauma from religion, right? You know, maybe you feel like you can't breathe, you can't do much, right? You always feel like you gotta like be perfect, right? You also might be a person who didn't have confidence. Maybe your mom didn't have the confidence. She might be appearing as a confident woman now, but you don't know how she was with 18, 20. Because sometimes parents, they love us, but they're not going to really always, not always, they're not always going to tell us the negative qualities about themselves, right? Because they don't want to be seen by their children a certain way because they want their respect. Because if they tell too many of their flaws, right, you might have the will to do what they did. So if they say they went to the club, right, but they tell you don't go to the club, you might rebel because then you'll bring that back into their face. Well, dad, mom, you told me you went to the club. Why can't I go to the club at this age, right? It just makes sense. So they hold things back. But I'm a person, I understand why they do that, but sometimes I feel like in society we need to be more open with each other in our family dynamic. Because I give you another example. My family had a lot of secrets, right? We had people hiding money, certain things like that, inheritance, right? And a lot of people don't give credit to every aspect of their culture. Like I told you guys before, I have strong Native American roots, European roots, and African roots, right? But a lot of my inheritance is Native American. All the land we have, all that, the hotels we have, the 2 hotels, the 2 banks, that all goes from inheritance and my great-great-grandfather and my great-great-grandmother. So I have a great-great-grandmother, right, that came from Britain, right? She migrated here, right? Married an Indian man, and so then they got land, right? And which was his land from his tribe, and then she had a little bit of money, and then they had children, and then from their children, one of their children married a African American man, not through slavery, nothing like that. None of my family went through any of that slavery stuff like you see on books and stuff. Now my family did own slaves. You can go right now. We have 2 plantations. And the people that run it, they're not white, they're Indian, right? So as far as like the actual facility, but again, we don't have slaves now, we're in 2024. But that's karma though, because sometimes I think to myself, if my family has slaves, even though I don't appear white, I still feel like I'm getting hit up with karma for what the family has done. Does this make sense to you? I hope this makes sense, because sometimes I notice that I don't get along with some of my own people. It just makes sense whether they're Indian or black, and I feel like it's carried out because I have a lot of different ancestry, right? Again, and that's recent. This is recent ancestry. This is not no 500 years ago, guys. Like, this stuff that I'm talking about was like in the 1900s, 1800s. Like, this is recent. Like, I even met my great-great-grandmother before she passed away, right? Because she lived a long time. Because remember, I'm 39 years old. I met her right before she passed when I was like, I've been around her, I should say, all the time. But she told me a lot of her stories right when I was up till 10, 12 years old. And I remember these stories, right? But a lot of my family don't want to care about this. So, again, you might have family that have secrets. Not that they're going to be as like that, per se, but that they don't want to tell you guys, right? And it's understandable. So again, really watch your surroundings, how your family is, your friends are, the people you date. You might notice that you attract a lot of nice men that have good hearts, but they might like overgive so much to you that they expect certain expectations out of you. Maybe they want to have sex with you because like they gave you this, now they want that. But you might notice a trend that men do that. As soon as you notice that sign, start realizing what you're doing. Like, did you set enough boundaries? Right, so he won't feel like this? Did you take too many gifts from this person? Like, again, you got to really look at it. And again, doesn't mean that the person's right for saying, hey, I want to be intimate with you, but it's saying be cautious, guys, right? Because as soon as you be cautious, it changes your mindset, and you'll be a stronger woman or whoever, or man, and you can set boundaries. And then once you set these boundaries out, right, the universe and the God source sees that your mind has changed, because it starts with the thoughts before everything's manifest. So when you stand confident in yourself and know that, hey, I'm not going to accept this, and you confirm it instead of just saying, I can't believe this person did this to me. You be confident and know it, release it, let go, forgive those people. And now your energy is literally changed. And you're going to start seeing change in this couple weeks, couple months, and you're going to get better people that's not going to just, hey, give you things because they had a need of something from you, whether you're personal time or an intimacy, right? They're going to come to you genuinely because they like talking to you. They love being around you. This makes sense? And that's how you do things, right? Because again, I'm not trying to talk down on other people who might be putting out positive messages, but one thing I've noticed that we always talk about like karma or like love, but nobody really touches on every other aspect of how things go, things like that. And it's more than the past life. Again, it can be family, right? And I don't like to say curses, just negative, I would say addictive habits, right? Some people like control. Like I knew a lot of the men in my family, they were, how can I say this? They were very powerful, very controlling, right? Things of that nature, but also kind of like passive. Like they weren't really balanced. Sometimes they control too much, sometimes they're passive. But one thing I know is about the women, they're very emotional, but they're very dominant. They're very, very dominant. Like I know it's a lot of women, they didn't take any excuse my language, crap for nobody. Like especially my great grandmother, the Native American one I was talking about, like she used to have a shotgun. One time her and her dude argued and she put out a shotgun, pow, shot at him right out the door. And she just didn't play, man. She wasn't one to play with, man. Like she was like one of them old Southern bells. She did not play. She lived in this big old house, 3 stories. It had like 50 rooms and it was huge, huge house. Like I said, like we had I don't like, it's not boasting, but like a plantation, had all this stuff. But she didn't play. That's my whole point, is she was stern. And so that blood that she had, it went into my mom, it went into my aunts, and they very strong. So when a man treats them wrong, they're not gonna pull a weapon on them, of course, but they're gonna speak their mind. They're gonna speak up. This makes sense. And I know it's a lot of men who come into their lives and marry them. They're strong, but they seem passive. Almost like I'm not gonna say feminine, but they're very passive. They kind of like respect the women in our how can I say, in my family, right? Now every once in a while we do get some women that kind of get cheated on or whatnot, and then they feel like they can't leave, things like nature. But again, that's still like inheritance, right? It doesn't mean that, again, that any woman or man deserves to be cheated on. It doesn't mean that men and women should be combative all the time. But it's something I noticed. And again, I'm only bringing my story because maybe you might experience something like that, where you notice you always drawing men or women that's always argumentative when you want peace. And again, doesn't mean that you really did anything bad in the past. Like, it literally could be inherited. Like, again, you might not have saw your mom and dad go through that. Your mom and dad might have had a great relationship. Even your grandmother. But then you don't know if your grandmother's sister was going through something like that. You don't know if your great grandmother went through something like that, because it can skip, right? I'll give you an example, right? My eyes look sleepy, right? I was born like that, right? I got these little eyes, right? Well, it skipped generations, right? The only person who had these eyes was my great grandfather. So not my father, not my grandfather, but my great grandfather. This makes sense. And that came from his great grandfather. It skipped. And then none of my uncles and nieces got that. So just how that physical feature here, that's how energy is, as far as like how you act, your character. Because yes, your character forms and evolves through your environment, right, in modern times, but it's also something that's also passed on to you generationally, because your soul, the body, it picked that family for a reason, to heal certain karmic traits that they had from a past life, and also to help this family wound. That's why children are blessings. Children, if they're in the right mindset and balance as they grow up, they're actually supposed to come into involvement for themselves, but it also fits in the lineage of the family. And even if the children never talk to the family again, like for example, my dad grew up in a foster home, right? He knew his mom only till he was like 6, and they separated her because she was doing some negative things, right? So they separated him when he was in Miami, and he got adopted by a man who had a ranch, who had horses, right? And so long story short, he kind of became structured and organized and really much with nature, but he never really knew his parents. Does this make sense? And so my dad always wanted a family. And so then he had us, but he didn't do so well. He ended up getting divorced. But I'm just sharing to you how certain things play out. You got to watch the signs, right? Because even though my dad separated, like, again, he was in the foster home, he tried to do what he could do in this marriage. But again, he's still around, right? He's not a perfect man, but from my perspective, I know other guys who have fathers, and other girls that have fathers who are doing way more worse than my dad has done, right? So at the end of the day, you got to look at things from a different perspective, guys. Again, don't beat yourself up too much if this guy is not calling you, or this woman's not calling you, or my child's not acting right with me. Especially if your child's like an adult. Like, it's sad, but a lot of times it's possibly because maybe the dad, if the dad's living and that grown child sees something, maybe they're picking up some of the father traits. I'll give you an example. Me, I'm a masculine man, right? Definitely tapped in with my feminine and masculine side of myself. Even I went to the military, but I'm very empathetic. I'm not afraid to cry. And when I was growing up, my mother would vent to me every day about the things my dad would do. And I'm like 8 or 9. I would soak that in, and it made me not want to. Indirectly, she doesn't know. It's kind of like teaching me not to ever do that, not to cheat, never, not to yell. And I have a big heart. But my sister, she was different. She was like a kind of her daddy's little girl, where even if my dad was wrong, she would defend it. And so like she doesn't really like people talking bad about her dad, and she defends him. So she's a woman who has a lot of masculine energy. So even when my sister dates men, she has this masculine energy. It's very triggering, and it can intimidate men. She's a small girl, like barely 115, but she has this intimidating energy. So no matter how pretty she is, it's intimidating. But in me, right, even though I come off dominant, if somebody was to meet me in person, I've had a lot of people tell me, especially when I dated, oh, you're nicer than I thought you were gonna be. Oh, you're kinder, because I have this feminine energy. So it's like, even though I'm the boy and my sister's the girl, it's like the roles are like kind of like, at least in our energies, emotionally it's switched. Where she has this more masculine, dominant energy. She wants to fix everything. I don't care about fixing everything. I'm not here to try to fix. I'm more like receiving and passing. She's more of a go-getter. Like right now, I make money, she makes money, but she's even more go-getter, almost like some masculine. Boom, 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 boom. She wants to go, get down now, right? She's also more combative and arguing than me. But one thing we both got in common, we have a big heart, we both love, but she's more easy to get triggered and yell. So I'm just showing that as an example of how roles can be switched, right? And again, it's because she also picked up traits from my dad. Like, for example, I'm clean, no offense. She's kind of clean, but she's also like a hoarder. And that's something my dad was. And my mom has pointed this out. And when she pointed it out, I started thinking about that. I was like, dang, my mom is right. My sister has picked up some things from my dad indirectly. So again, if you're going through some type of children problems or anything like that, it could be things that's picked up from the parent indirectly without even teaching. Because a lot of things that children learn, you don't necessarily have to teach them. They also observe and also just passed on to them inheritedly. Like I said, shyness. Nobody teaches a child to really be shy. You might tell a child to be respectful and speak when you need to speak, but that's not really telling them to be shy though. You know what this? Nobody taught me that, right? And that was something that was very hard to break because I was single for a long time. Like, seriously, it took a long time to be confident, and not just with women, just people in general. It wasn't about, oh, I'm afraid what people are going to say or to me. It was more about, I was just scared to talk. I was scared to talk. Excuse the phone ringing, but I was afraid to talk, and I had to build my own self up. And it was definitely hard when I went to the military because you cannot just sit there and be quiet. You got to speak. And then when I became a supervisor and somebody of authority, I had to speak. And so again, if you notice that you're having some times of issues with communication with yourself, or you're drawing people with communication, look at how you communicate, right? Because again, yes, you might draw a man or woman that can't communicate, but look at what's going with you, right? I'm just saying, we got to look at things from in a deeper way and from a different perspective. So I just wanted to say that because also I'm going to be making maybe a video later on today, I don't know when, about because I feel like some people are going to be going through a new phase in life, coming out of karmic situations, and I feel like a lot of things that I stated here might come up in that reading that I'm going to be making later on. I don't know, today or this week, I don't know. But I definitely wanted to say this. I feel like I pretty much touched on for the most part everything, but really notice the habits you have. If there are any negative things, and look at the good qualities as well, right? Be proud of yourself, pat your own self on the back, but also again, notice who's around you. Notice the city. You might notice that you're peaceful, but look at the city. And also your neighborhood, right? I noticed that, for example, my mom, she has a green thumb, and so do I. I like planting gardens and stuff. That's why I have a rose tattoo. I love, gardening. That was passed off my grandfather. Nobody taught us. My grandfather, he was gardening, right? My great-grandma, they always had gardens, right? We always have rose gardens, right? I don't know why. We just have roses, right? Well, my mom starts building a rose garden. Next thing you know, her neighbor gets a rose garden, right? She didn't tell him, it's like she inspired him. Next thing you know, I start seeing more houses down her whole street getting gardens, right? So it's like your energy can also affect people in a positive way. Does this make sense? That's what I'm pretty much trying to tell you. Even when I was in the military, right, I had girls that I work with. None I'm in their business, but like, because I'm a supervisor, if they have any health issues, they have to let me know. So if a girl's on her cycle, she'll let me know, right? And I noticed that a lot of the girls I work with, when they're also, especially when we're all in the same office, they all almost have their period cycles, menstrual cycles, at the same time, right? And then it left me with a lot of work, even though I'm supervised. I'm like, oh my God, right? Even when they got pregnant, I had girls getting pregnant at the same time because, like, I worked around a lot of pregnant women at certain phases in my life. Because even though I did security, I also worked with intelligence. There's certain times I had to work in the medical field with labor and delivery. And there was also girls who might want to have a child, because in the military, you don't know if you're going to go to war at any time. And sometimes people in the military start families early. But I'm just sharing to you how they didn't tell each other to do this. They didn't tell each other to start their cycles. It's just energy, guys. And that's how it is when it comes to negative people in your life and positive people. So again, I feel like if you want better in your life, yes, it's great to pray or whatever you believe in, or ritual, whatever you want to believe in your religion. But again, sometimes you gotta look at the actions that you've done and also look at your family. Like really reflect. Is there somebody that my mom might not have told me? And if you lived in a foster home and you don't really know your parents, it might be something that stemmed from your parents, but you just don't know about, right? So, but again, though, really look at yourself. Am I spending too much money? Do I gossip too much? Do I like watching too many gossiping shows? And I'm not saying anything's wrong with that, but it's about how much you involve yourself in these things, right? If you're consistently doing things over and over and over, they're not the best. That's an addiction, right? Especially if you like drama all the time. It's one thing to watch maybe certain things of drama, being around people with drama, maybe like once a month. But like if you're doing this like more than like 2 weeks out of a month, something's off there, guys. And then you wonder why you draw a partner that's full of drama, but you're not a person of drama. You also are entertaining things on television. And also there's spirits that affect us as well. I remember one time when I was in Japan, I don't even drink like that, but I went to celebrate, I drank, and I had a mirror in front of me, and I drank, and I saw this spirit that looked like a reptilian, which you guys would call a reptilian. It came through the mirror, and it went through my body like a possession, and my soul was out of my body. I literally saw this, and it made me get the phone. I called on the phone. I was like, yeah, my name is Dominique. I said, I'd like to change my PIN number. I told the woman at the bank, and she's like, sir, are you okay? Are you okay? And I changed my PIN number. The thing, I didn't remember that day, but the next day I go to sleep, and my spirit guide showed me a vision of this spirit coming within me, and they had to push the spirit out. And the only reason it was able to come into me because I had alcohol in my system, right? But I thought it was interesting that the spirit wanted me to call the bank, because the next day I couldn't find my phone, I couldn't get into my bank account, nothing like that. It was a spirit. It was an actual spirit. But what that taught me was this: even though I was pretty much had that alcohol in me, it shows me, like I told you guys before, I see spirits, good and bad. But this tells me that whether you drink alcohol too much, or you go out to party one time, and if you're not an addict, right, and you drink alcohol one time, or even if you're around negative people, right, when you around negative people, again, people have attachments, and so other than those people making those actions, there are spirits that are making these people more motivated indirectly to do more gossip, to do more drama, to want to fight, to want to hurt people, to want to take people's lives. Does this make sense? And they also when people are afraid, you might be a person who's afraid of a lot of stuff. Look at that. You might be afraid of animals, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are overly too fearful, where you having some type of anxiety, or you got to take pills, there's also spirits that are also causing that fear in you. And if you're around family that's always concerned, right? For example, I have family that are always saying, hey, you know, there's an accident over there down the street, or you know, what's the name got robbed. They always talking about negative crime scenes, and a lot of times certain people in my family had gotten in certain altercations, whether car wrecks and all that, because they spoke on it. And also because they spoke, and that's also fear, especially when COVID happened. When COVID happened, they're so fearful, right? Even though people can catch COVID naturally, that fear draws it to you, and then they drew these negative spirits. That same spirit I saw in the mirror when I had drank alcohol at one specific time, which I don't really like alcohol like that. The spirit, those kind of spirits, they don't just draw the people who drink alcohol. Those spirits go everywhere, especially when you're in a lower vibration or a lower mindset, and it weakens your aura. So again, it's deeper than that. And this is something I don't see people talking about. It's not just, oh, I'm not a good person, or I need to balance myself, I need to ground myself. Yes, but we live in a world duality. So just like you have angels out here, you have darker spirits out here from all different walks of life. It's not just like fallen angels. It's not just demons. There's other type of spirits that are nameless, that do things that I've seen, that follow people and can trigger people. So you got to be careful who you surround yourself with. And again, it doesn't mean you need to walk on thin ice and be afraid to communicate with people. It doesn't mean you need to be afraid to date people. It doesn't mean you should shun your family. I'm just telling you to be aware of the signs. Notice the signs when your family's acting like out of character, or you notice they're doing too many negative things, right? We can always love people for this. If they respect you, they respect your space, right? So again, because you can't change the world, you might not be able to change your whole family. One thing you can do is change yourself, and you can change your own energy to draw better people. And you never know, your energy, it can be 30 years of drama and a whole bunch of BS going on in your family. You can be with them for 30, they could have been knowing you all until you're 50 years old, but just you changing today, right? It could be right now today. You could have 50 years of BS with a lot of people in your life. Just you changing this right now, when you go back home, they might notice a change. They're going to get mad. They're going to get triggered. But the more they see you, every once in a while, they're going to indirectly get inspired to, like, you know what? I'm noticing I have bad habits. I'm noticing that Sally's not doing what I used to do. Sally used to drink. Sally used to gossip. She used to sit at our table with all the girls and tell how men ain't nothing, you know? But because they saw you, it can trigger them to change. Even if it's been 50 years, you would have never saw your family or friends change. You've been knowing them for 50 years, 20 years, because your energy changed. change them indirectly without you having to tell them. And sadly to say, if they don't change, then you probably would know by then that maybe I need to distance myself from them a little bit to preserve my own energy. Because sometimes you gotta learn to put yourself first. And if they respect you, they'll understand that if they really love you. Right? Again, because some people want to guilt trip you. Like, oh, why don't you call me? Why don't you visit me? They want to guilt trip you, but you know they're not right for you. Whether it be family or friends, then you know they're not right for you, but they want to act like you're not a good son. You're not a good father. You're not a good mother. You're not a good father, brother, whatever, right? Or aunt, right? Don't let people guilt trip you because they're going through some stuff. You're not here to help everybody. We can do as much, but we're not. I'm telling you right now, because what you don't want to do is live your life all the way to you're 100 years old, sacrifice yourself for everybody, and never getting validated, and then you wake up on the back of with your back on the stretcher, and you realize you didn't do anything for yourself, and then you have this regret and scorn in your heart. And then when you look with the God, whether you believe in judgment or not, God might say, well, you loved everybody else, but what about you? God's in you too, because then you're neglecting the God in you, because God created you. So why would you neglect yourself? Because you worry about other people, how can I say, dictating your life, what they feel about you, and they asking you to help them, right? And then they make you feel bad when you don't want to help. So you just kept giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, and you wake up one day, you're 65 years old, you look back like, where did my life go? You put so much into a relationship, where did my life go? My husband left me after 40 years. What am I do? I've been praying to God all day. Like, why didn't he come through? Well, he was already probably showing you the signs. You already saw you had habitual habits, but you just were afraid to leave. Maybe you're afraid to leave because y'all had a house together. Maybe you're afraid to leave because y'all both have rent. Y'all paying rent together. Maybe we didn't want to leave till the kids get 18 years old, which is understandable. But I will say this though: if you don't have any children, right, and if you are not in the same house as a person, and you don't have any money tied up with them, you have the free will to leave. There really is no burden keeping you there. Right now, it's different if you got money. If you got money and you investing in a home and you're married together in that house, you can't separate that easy because it's money involved. If you got children involved, you can't leave. Like, you can't leave it, right? But I'm telling from all my people out there are single right now as well. If you are not in that far deep of a situation, you have the option to leave. That way it keeps you as a single person to repeat negative patterns with negative people, right? So that's what I had to touch on. I think I touched on everything that I wanted to address. And again, and thank you guys. And again, I'm gonna say it again. Shout out to all my followers, but I definitely want to give a shout out to the young lady who sent me that song, who didn't know I liked to sing and all that, from Scotland. It really resonated in my soul. That it felt like an aspect of me. And also, again, I want to give a shout out to United Kingdom and just everybody in general who's been following my channel. No matter where in the world you are from, I know I'm an extremely small channel, but I feel like it's kind of like family. Cause I like to read y'all comments, and I feel y'all heart, right, energetically, whether y'all know it or not. And again, with that being said, yeah, my name is Knight, and I wish y'all the best everywhere. Blessed be.